In the heart of Galway, Ireland, a singer-songwriter by the name of Sarah Wiers has been getting the attention of music fans with her strong dedication to music and storytelling. This artist has a melodious voice and muscle for songwriting. She embodies the true spirit of a musician who dedicates her life to the craft and the impact it can have on the world. Despite her rising success and busy schedule, she also finds time to pursue another passion, show jumping. As a horse show jumper, she's managed to excel in another field entirely, showcasing her versatility and commitment to excellence. This unique combination of musical and equestrian skill highlights a personality that refuses to be boxed in to a single identity. Whether on stage or on horseback, Sarah is a living example of how diverse talents and interests can converge to create a truly remarkable life. Let us welcome Sarah Wiers to Surprise Cast. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I can't complain. The sun is finally shining, which is not that common here in Ireland, so we are absolutely delighted with ourselves these days.
Could you tell the listeners where you are podcasting from?
Well, I'm sitting in my sitting room at my desk in Loughrea, County Galway.
There's a gentleman by the name of Ultan Conlon who I spoke with a couple months ago. Are you familiar with him?
Yes, I've heard a lot about him. I have yet to meet him in person, but I believe he's a very good songwriter, musician, and I have heard some of his songs before as well.
I would like to know anything you want to share with the listeners regarding Loughrea. Why should I visit?
Loughrea has an absolutely beautiful lake, hence its name, Irish Loughrea. And to be honest, on a day like today, it is such a lovely spot to be. There's a lovely walkway all around it, and there's a pier that you can jump off of, and it's shallow enough to swim on the edges. It's lovely for kayaking. It's just a lovely town. We've our own cathedral as well, which is beautiful to look at, and it's just a lovely spot, and it's a very safe place to be. So it's very beautiful and lovely people as well.
Thank you. That's all I need to know. I'll get over there soon. Before I get over there, we are going to go down a journey as far as this podcast goes, a journey into the heart and soul of who you are. And it's going to be a three-part journey: family, mentors, friends, and your body of work. So let's launch this discussion, shall we? And I'm going to read something to you, Sarah, and I would like for you to respond however you like. This is from a book called Good Grief: Peanuts Pick-Me-Ups for When You Need Them the Most. Great little nuggets, if you will, on life, perspectives. And I'm going to read to you a comic, and I'd like for you to respond after I ask you this question. Here we go. Charlie Brown is watching television all by himself. His sister, Sally, walks in and says, "Has school started yet?" Charlie Brown says, "Good grief. No, it doesn't start until September." Sally says, "I don't want to be late the first day." Charlie Brown says, "Well, don't worry. It doesn't start for 11 weeks. Sally says, "Maybe I'd better take my coat off." So, Sarah, here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
What were you like as a student whilst growing up?
I love this question. I hated school with my heart and soul.
Why?
I was never a kid to be boxed into a classroom, forced to learn like everybody else. Just wasn't my thing. Never liked it. I, in fact, left school at about 14 years of age to do homeschooling. did my junior certificate then at 16. And I said, good luck to school, I'm out of here, and started my career at what I actually wanted to do.
I was an elementary school teacher for 23 years. I taught second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. I could spot a mile away when a student didn't seem to enjoy their experience for so many reasons. What in particular about school that you really had a hard time with?
I suppose a lot of school is about fitting in with everyone else. You want to sort of fit in because otherwise you're seen as the outsider, but I was never the sort to fit in. And I didn't want to force myself to fit in either because that wasn't me. So I'd spend a lot of time on my own in school, and I'd always sort of be the bit of a loner, I suppose. And I got sick of that. I was like, "Do you know what? This is just not the place for me because the people in here are just not on my level. They're not vibing with me and I just can't deal with them." And I just wasn't, just wasn't the place for me. It was just the wrong place for me to be.
When did you know that? At what age?
It definitely started happening once we hit secondary school here in Ireland, which would have been 12, 13 years of age.
And your parents' response to this?
Um, my parents are actually, in fact, German. So in their mind, it was like, you can't school at home. That doesn't exist. That's against the law. And I was like, no, we're in Ireland. I can do homeschooling. So I went off on the phone and I Googled this and I looked up that and I said, here, look, this is how we do it. A, B, C, D. That's what we have to do. Right. Yeah. Oh, okay. And I was like, we're doing it.
So who homeschooled you, mom or dad?
The books and me.
Wow.
Most of the time. We did hire someone for maths for a while, but to be fair, again, I found it hard to work off somebody else. What I ended up doing was our exam books had the question and answers in the very back of the book. So I would go and look at the answer and I'd find out how I got there, like how did I get to the answer? And I'd start figuring my own way of how I did that. And I actually did better in my maths exam from homeschooling than I ever did while I was in school.
Tell me more about your childhood experience while growing up.
Well, I grew up an only child, so I suppose everything was thrown at me if I wanted it, but I also had lots of, I suppose, alone time as well. So always loads of time to figure things out and do things for myself, and up to be very independent because of that, I would say.
Your parents' livelihoods, jobs?
They were professional show jumper and dressage riders in Germany for over 20, 30 years. Actually moved to Ireland to retire and relax. And next thing I was born, and this whole horsey thing started all over again.
Oh my goodness. So there's the connection. Okay, so I learned that school was not your jam. Got it.
No.
Now, whilst you were going through the motions and then did some homeschooling, you started to get involved with horses show jumping at what age?
So I guess like a lot of kids, I started some riding lessons at a riding school when I was 5 or 6. Now, look, I was sat on a horse from being a couple of months old. There's pictures of me before I could walk sitting on a horse. But I started to ride properly, I suppose, at 6 and got my own first pony at 9 years of age. And I suppose started competing him then when I was 10.
What was your pony's name?
Hey, you get one guess when he's Irish.
Shane.
Not bad. His name was Paddy. And
I was very nice. Okay. I have to ask because I do remember some students at our school eventually became homeschooled during lockdown. That's what a lot of people were doing, obviously. So, in that homeschool experience, was that hard for you staying connected with people at all? Was that ever a fear or concern?
No, because I was just as much not connected to them in school as I was when I was not there anyway. So it made little difference to me. The only connection I had was the people surrounding me in my horse world and then later on in life in music. So it didn't really matter because the people I was dealing with in school had nothing to do with what I was doing anyway.
So when did music start to take shape and hold of you?
It was always lingering. I mean, there's a picture of me somewhere with a fly swatter turned around the wrong way, using it as a guitar, singing along to Robbie Williams when I was about 3 or 4. Then I took a few guitar lessons when I was 7, 8, 9. I also played violin for 2 or 3 years, and I used to do Irish dancing as well. So it was always there. But then I suppose from 9 to 10 years of age, the horses took over a lot. But I only really started back songwriting then when I was about 15, 16.
Were your parents supportive of that endeavor?
I suppose as much as they could be. I mean, none of my parents are musicians or have music in them, really. It's something that I sort of came up with. So there was no one going against me for sure. They were like, yeah, work away, we can't help you. I wish we could, but work away, do what you can because, if you ask me a question about a horse, I'll help you, but don't ask me about music. I can't answer that question for you.
How do you feel about being an only child?
It's all I'm used to, really. So it doesn't really bother me that much.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move into the second part of the conversation. This is about friendship, mentors along the way. Let's start with show jumping. So, who has helped guide you along this path other than your parents?
The biggest man there would be a man by the name of Willie Leahy. It'd be senior in this case because he has a son as well of the same name. But he used to run the Connemara trails out in Connemara, and he also owned the Dartfield Horse Museum here in Loughrea. And my mother and I moved to Galway here back in 2013. And my mother started working for him, and I also started being around the yard Dartfield. And it was him that would give me the first ponies to ride that were a bit better than my own, and would be the man that, if I needed a horse to ride, Willie would give me a horse to ride. And that's how I gathered a lot of mileage. If it wasn't for Willie, I wouldn't have went through about 20 to 30 horses in 7 years and getting the opportunity to ride so many different horses.
Is he still alive?
No, unfortunately not. He just passed there 2 years ago in September. But he was always young and fit in his mind, and the day he passed, even he was still like he was 30. I mean, he was an amazing character, and he's very well known in the US as well, actually.
Do you think there might be a song about him later in the future?
I actually have one written that I wrote for Christmas, and I sort of just casually released it on my social media, but plan is to release it officially on Spotify and streaming platforms for the upcoming Christmas.
Tell the listeners more about the world of show jumping. To me, this is a very foreign concept. I know of it. I've seen it in Olympics. I've seen it, YouTube stuff, but I'm not immersed in that world at all. What can you tell the listeners? Give us a little bit more of an inside scoop on it.
Well, it's all about, I suppose, training up a young horse that you think has potential, bring it up the levels as good as you can, try and bring it up to Grand Prix and potentially sell it on, or just have it as your staple horse that people know you by, that they see you in the ring and know, oh, this is a Grand Prix rider with a Grand Prix horse. Potentially you either bought it or you produced it yourself. And it's all about being able to gain trust with a horse, teach them the best skills, and just work your way with them. And, it's a connection thing with the horses as well. You could have one horse that will go perfect under one rider and will never be as good under the next. It's very much a connection thing. And for me personally, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be able to fly. And I think the next best thing for me is to jump over a big, big jump with a horse in those couple of seconds in the air. There's just a buzz about it and adrenaline about it that I enjoy quite a lot.
I know some children and adults can be very fearful of horses, and because of obviously their strength. I know when I did some horseback riding, I was a little tentative and nervous. Is that kind of a myth, if you will, about the horse? And, that, at any time they could buck the person off. I mean, let's go down that path.
Yeah, to an extent, it is a myth. You always will have horses that can be just cheeky and bold, clearly because they've either learned bad habits from having maybe weaker riders on them quite often, and then they'd learn that, oh, I can get this person off. Cool. You know, so you'll have that, especially if you're going somewhere just trekking riding where horses are used for that purpose continuously. They will get accustomed to the fact that they actually know how to get rid of people. But in a general basis, once a horse is happy with what he's doing and you're treating him right, he will not have any reason to get rid of you or hurt you, providing you don't hurt them in the first place.
Thank you for that. Tell the listeners a really special moment that you will forever treasure regarding show jumping.
A moment of madness that actually ended really well would have been back in 2017 when I very randomly decided to enter a horse into a présence, which is the big red wall that gets bigger and bigger each round. And this horse and I had not prepared for this whatsoever, but I had this ludicrous idea that this horse is able to jump up very high on a steep scale, but he never jumps very wide. So I said, this wall is going up, it's not getting wider. So why not? They were shouting out for contestants that night. They were short entries, and I was like, yeah, take a chance. I'll jump this first one. I'll get a nice photograph and I'll go home. But in the end, I ended up making it through all the 5 rounds, and I was the only girl in it. I was only 18 at the time, and I came second, clearing a 7-foot wall. So that was my moment of madness that has forever stuck with me as a good moment of happiness in the end.
Absolutely. Now, you just said something that caught my attention. Only girl. Is it mostly male dominated?
Présence would be, funny enough, and you don't see that many women at it. Now, you will see lots of women out in the ring in general, but for
Okay.
some reason, now that night especially, but the more I think about it, actually, on a bigger scale, yeah, there is not that many women that go and jump présence. Now, I cannot tell you why. Is it the lack of horsepower or is it the lack of madness that I do have?
In terms of show jumping and obviously having great respect for horses, what is the actual connection you're feeling to the horse?
It's like you are sitting there and you're asking them to do stuff without actually opening your mouth. They can feel you.
Wow.
So all I do is think about going left. I tilt my body a certain way. I squeeze with one of my legs and they know, oh yeah, right, we're going that way. I keep saying it to people as well. Often people ask me, oh, I'm struggling to stop this horse or I'm struggling to do this. I said, just think about it in your head and they will listen and they will do it. And that's how it works. And it really does. And people are quite often surprised by that. Then they go and do it and it actually starts working and they're looking at me going, "Ah, okay."
Is there really such a thing as horse whispering?
I suppose you could call it that. It's a fancy name for just a connection that you build with them. It's like you connect with people, but just that us people have a language to communicate with, whereas the communication with horses is just on a silent, on a whispering basis, I suppose.
I've seen some of your Instagram posts where you're out there filming while you're on the horse
Oh,
and
yes.
some lovely locations. Could you tell us where you're doing that?
Often just around home here in Loughrea, I live down a little small road, dead end, and it's a lovely spot. There's hills across here called Ballydugan, and we're just lucky to be located in a lovely quiet spot. We're close to the main road, but yet we're really far away, which is really handy. And we're just lucky. We have a lovely scenery around us here.
Is show jumping an expensive hobby, passion, pursuit?
There is one phrase about horses, and I'm going to tell you this and everyone else listening. In order to become a millionaire at horses, you have to start out as a billionaire.
My goodness. Okay.
So that might answer your question.
I'm going to ask you what you might consider a very silly question, but hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a drummer, I would ask you this question, Sarah. What is it about the actual drum kit that you truly, truly gravitate towards? The hi-hat, the ride cymbal, the crash. What I want to know from you is, in the world of show jumping, equestrian stuff, what aspect, what part of the gear, anything that you go, love this?
Well, in general, about the sport, I love to produce a young horse. I love that rewarding feeling of when they suddenly understand what you're asking them to do. And then I just love a good saddle to sit on. You can't beat a lovely, comfortable saddle because your backside is in it for a long time. And yeah, if there's anything I've been particularly about and probably spent the most money on was a good saddle.
So, is a good saddle really just down to the quality of the leather?
Quality of the leather, how it fits your seat. Of course, it has to fit the horse as well. But some people, I've a very long upper leg, so I need the saddle to be long enough to fit my leg length. Then my backside is not huge, so I don't need the saddle to be massive out the back, but I need it long in front. So just you get one to suit what you need. And again, yeah, leather quality is definitely a big part of it.
So, roughly, what does a good saddle cost?
Well, I'm going to be straight out. The CWD saddle that I have was €3,500, but that would be considered an expensive saddle. You can buy them as cheap as €500 if you're starting out.
Oh my goodness. But that will last a long time.
Oh, that will last forever, and you can get bits of it refurbished. You don't have to buy a new one. You can bring it to get the leather stitched if anything tears over the years. But if you mind it well, the chances of that happening are very low anyway, unless something like a freak accident or anything like that.
How often are you riding these days?
Pretty much every day. I bought a new 4-year-old horse only there on Tuesday, so I am trying to stick my heels in, get her going now as well. So I did take 2 years off there for a while because I was at it every day, and I sort of got a small bit sour to it, to be straight out and honest with you. So I concentrated on the music, but I think the time has come now where I want to do a bit again, and I'm just kind of bought the new horse, and I sold an older horse that I had, and I'm just sort of getting back into the swing of things again now.
Do you ever worry about getting injured?
I don't worry about it, but it does happen.
You ever broken any bones?
Yeah, the list is long, to be honest.
Oh, but as the proverbial comment would be, just get back on that horse, right?
Oh yeah, providing you're not totally crippled, yes.
Fascinating. Anything else you want to share about show jumping to our listeners?
Well, look, anyone that is definitely interested in horses or loves it just needs to know that, you need to put the work in. You need to learn yourself. There's no good in going buying yourself a ready-made horse and thinking you're going to get, anywhere with it, because that's just not how it works. So do your homework, learn your stuff, and just trust in the process.
Fantastic. Okay. So we're going to move the needle forward a little bit. And now we're actually going to focus on the third part of our conversation. This is the body of your work as a musician. And before we do that, I want to read something to you, Sarah, and I just want you to respond however you like. This comes from a book called The Creative Act, A Way of Being, written by the legendary producer, Rick Rubin. You may be familiar with his work, producer of Beastie Boys, Tom Petty.
Oh, yes.
Someone behind you by the name of I'm Johnny Cash.
Yes.
All righty. This is called inspiration. Inspiration. It appears in a moment, an immaculate conception, a divine flash of light, an idea that would otherwise require labor to unfold suddenly blooms in a single inhalation. What defines inspiration is the quality and quantity of the download. At a speed so instantaneous, it seems impossible to process. Inspiration is the rocket fuel powering our work. It is a universal conversation we yearn to be part of. So, Sarah, Where do you get your inspiration from in terms of music?
As I just heard you say, from the download of the universe, if that makes sense. Quite literally, and funny enough, my mother actually works as a psychic evidential medium, and we are very much, I suppose, in sync with all this energy and power around us. And I will quite literally often just sit still or lie in bed and get a light bulb moment. I'm like, yes, that's what I would like to write about today. Or, geez, I like the sound of that. Or just sometimes random moments. I could be driving down the road and next thing I hear a phrase in my head. I'm like, yeah, I actually want to work on this. Write it down, That'll be
How,
often the way.
how often do you practice music?
Well, I'm lucky enough, I have a lot of gigs, so pretty much every weekend that I gig becomes my practice most of the time, so that it just goes from one weekend to another. But other times I might practice during the week. It depends if I'm trying to start a new song or something that I haven't done before.
Yeah.
Obviously, I need to dig into it. But other than that, I'm lucky enough to have enough gigs to keep me going between.
I remember growing up listening to bands like Thompson Twins, Culture Club, Kiss, Led Zeppelin. And there was a radio station here that really opened my world to indie alternative music, changed my life. For you growing up, who were some artists, bands that really captivated your attention?
Well, one of them is hanging on the wall behind me, as you can see, but it'd be Michael Jackson. I was a huge MJ fan.
Oh,
Massive. All the dance moves, all the jackets, all the bling, all the coats, absolutely everything. And to this day, I will and do follow one of his phrases. I won't sing it if I don't mean it. And I only just said that to someone a couple of weeks ago when we were trying to collaborate on a song. And I was like, I'd like to change it up a small bit to make it my own, because if you hand me the song and tell me sing it as it is right there and now, but I didn't have any creation in it, I'm like, I don't feel it, I don't mean it, so I'm not going to sing it.
Beatles.
Yeah, small bit as well. Now, we won't just follow the posters, but they are here as well. Just been there. I mean, also, I love David Bowie. To be honest, I like all the artists that are a bit weird, strange, stick out a bit. You know, that's my sort of thing. Because I've always been a bit of a stick out weirdo, may you say. So I think I always felt like I could associate with them people quite well.
Okay, so the Beatles, Bowie has come up in my conversation time and time again with musicians. One particular about Bowie, really, other than him being slightly odd and weird and all that, what about the music that really stands out for you?
It's just, again, it's different. He wasn't afraid to just bring out and release music that he felt was a reflection of who he was and what he wanted, and whether anyone else had done that before him or not didn't matter to him. And I like that.
Is there a particular song or album that you absolutely cannot live without?
I do quite enjoy the song Heroes.
Yeah.
There's a few. I mean, I'd also just listen to his best of, because they are the best of, to be fair. And just if I'm in a mood where I'm like, screw the rest of the world, that's when I'll turn on David Bowie and just like, yeah, okay, I'm in my zone now. Leave me alone.
Well, since we're on the Bowie topic, I believe his wife, Iman, is a model.
That's right.
And you do modeling yourself?
I did for quite a while. Yeah, I did for sure. Not a massive market for it here in Ireland, especially not for tall, slender models like me, which sounds bizarre. But most models that they want in Ireland are a size 8 to 10, whereas I'm only a size 4 to 6. So for me to really take off in modeling, I'd have to go out to Milan in Italy, or even New York or London. But because of the horses, I could never just take off and leave everything behind me here. So hence, I never really followed it down the road after all.
How did you even get into that world?
Again, no more than back being young watching singers on television, we also used to always watch Germany's Next Top Model with Heidi Klum on telly.
Yeah, yeah.
And just that, I was like, oh, I love the fashion. And no more than with Michael Jackson being an inspiration, I just loved fashion so much. And I was starting to grow to be a tall, slender sort of an individual, and I loved being on stage. And it all had these similarities, no more than music, being on stage, nice fashion, it just all tied in. And I think for me, it was like, I don't care how, but I want to be on a stage.
All right. So I have to ask this question, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
So thank you for being honest and you being on stage, all the glitz and the glamour, whatever came with that experience. Did you really like that attention?
It was strange. It's not even so much the attention, it's that I just felt at home when I was just up on a stage in my little bubble. I'd sort of pretend no one was around me, but I was just, no more than I'm happy up high in the air on a horse, I'm happy up high on a stage. I don't know what it is about when I feel I'm elevated. I feel like I'm in a higher power, and not power as in strength or stronger than anyone else, but just I just feel enlightened and happier and lighter, and just I don't know what it is, but it just gives me some sort of satisfaction and relaxation at the same time.
Did you enter into contests?
Not so much. I did go to one casting before in Germany, and funny enough, they told me that I didn't stand out enough. And all my life, I sort of was standing out in comparison to most people at home. And I was like, all right, then, fair enough. Took that on board, went home, and I said, I'm going to go down my own road now. And to be fair, a lot of the time, anyone that comes out of contests actually doesn't end up doing that well out of it anyway. So I said, I don't really need a contest to get me anywhere. I might as well just do it my own way, no more than I did with school. Don't follow the same trail that everyone else does. Just do your own thing.
Would you ever consider going back into that world?
Into the contest world?
Oh, yeah, any aspect to being a model.
Oh, modeling. I would. If the opportunity came up, yeah. If I got job offers to walk a show or to do a photo shoot, I definitely would, yeah.
You mentioned you like fashion, huh?
Yeah.
What about fashion? Is there a style of clothing that you
Yeah.
enjoy?
Look, I love bling. I love big puffy shoulders. I love a hat.
Oh,
I love 70s flare trousers,
yeah,
anything that's sort of different and
yeah.
yeah.
All right, let's go back to music. Tell us your kind of approach to songwriting.
There's different approaches. It depends what I want out of a song. If I want to, I suppose, let's say, write a party anthem, I want something to be all about the music, all about the sound. I will try and write the music side of it, the sound side of it first, and then fit lyrics to that. But if I want to write a song that is very meaningful and I want the words to be the most important part of it, I'll write the lyrics first and then I'll fit the music around the lyrics. So it depends what I'm aiming for. That's the way I will approach it then.
Thematically, are there repeating motifs that come up within your songwriting? Obviously, most people write about hardships, love, breakups, that kind of stuff.
I'm a funny one that way. I'm like a bit of a rainbow. No more than I'll pick at show jumping and modeling and music, I'll sort of pick at a love song, a dance song, or, I haven't found my right way yet either. I have one song released, which is a slow song. At the minute, I'm working on a fast country song. I'm sort of chipping at every corner to see what's my favorite. So the Christmas song that wrote is about someone who's no longer with us. The first song I released, In Another Life, you could consider it a love song, but it's also a made up story, really. And then my country song now it's a love story between a friendship story more than a love story between a couple that used to go to dance classes together. So they're not even a couple. They're actually just best friends that used to dance together. So we've got friendship, we've got love, we've got the loss of someone. It's a bit of everything.
Do you like writing lyrics? Do you
I
enjoy
do.
that process?
Yeah, I do. And often, right now, even, I have this idea in my head for the last couple of days on a song that I want to write. And I could be walking around with this idea in my head for about 2 weeks before I even put pen to paper. And random phrases will come into my head that correlate with this idea. And the day then that I sit down to actually write it, all that will come back to me and I'll have a big idea already of what I want to write down. It's like some sort of internal memory storage thing that goes on with me for a week or two before I actually sit down and let it all out.
Can we take a listen to Another Life in Another Life?
Yeah, of course.
And then, if you wouldn't mind giving us more of a backstory to this song.
Sure. No
All right, let's take a listen to the song In Another Life, Sarah Wiers.
I think of all the pretty things that we plan to do. Think of all the lazy days that I wanted with you. I think of all the movie nights cuddled up by the fire. Think of all the things we'd say we'd never get tired. What about the memories that we could have made? What about those fantasies that we never did meet? What about those holidays barefoot in the sand? What about those butterflies when I took your hand? In another life, when we started together. In another life, with the things we dreamed of. In another life, we could be more than just friends. In another life.
I know why I enjoy that song. Can you give the listeners a little bit of history to it?
Yeah, so in general, about how the song was written and by who, I had written most of that song myself, but I had also collaborated with Irish country music singer Johnny Brady. I met him before at one of his gigs, and he said to me, if you ever write a song you think that's any good, send it on to me and I'll listen to it for you. And I thought of this song and I sent it to him. And actually, the night I sent it to him, he sat down with a guitar and a bit of paper at 11 o'clock at night and actually wrote a few bits and sent it back to me. I was like, oh, I really like your song and this is what I did to it. And he sent it back to me and I was like, wow, is that my song? So he wrote a bit of it and I wrote most of it. But it was more just a love story of a situation that a lot of people can, I suppose, relate to, that you meet someone in life and you're happy with who you have. You have a partner. You're actually delighted with who you have. But you meet someone else that you're like, geez, that's a nice person. And I gel with them really well. And in another life, we could be more than just friends. And then you move on again and you're happy out as you are. But just that's sort of the story behind it. And I think anyone that I played the song to before I released it that heard those lyrics was like, oh my God, I can really relate to that. That sometimes there's a lot of people that you just gel with really well. And, in another life, they could be more than just a friend. And I suppose just that thought of that there is maybe another life out there, that was sort of also part of that song.
There's a movie that just came out recently called Past Lives that explored that whole notion.
Yeah.
Won awards. Check it out if you have the time. Who did the piano bits in that?
That would have been Mark Cahill is his name. He's in Meath here. He would actually be Johnny Brady's keyboard player, and he is also the producer on that song. Okay. And he is a savage piano player.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, he's very good.
Okay, so in terms of you becoming a musician, what are some goals in mind that you have for 2024 and beyond?
just release more music, get more people aware of my existence. Hopefully they like who I am and what I do, and just play more gigs and hopefully get to play bigger gigs over time. Hopefully be able to throw a bit of a band together as well and just make everything a bit bigger and just one step at a time.
Do you take vocal training?
No, I actually don't know. I have gone once or twice to try and get a few tips, but not normally. It's not something I sort of do. Most of my vocal training has just been trial and error myself.
So when did you realize you actually could sing?
I don't know. I guess I was
And
about
feel
5 or 6. I don't know how it happened that I found out, but when my father found out, he would occasionally drag me into his office and pull up a karaoke version of a song on YouTube with the lyrics and make me sing to it.
Do you remember the song?
Yeah, he used to drive me absolutely insane with Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
The Judy Garland version?
Yeah, yeah. When I was 6 years of age, I got chased with that song, and I was like, oh my God, do not make me sing that song one more time.
Except for when you're on a podcast, right?
Oh God, no.
That's great. Okay, so never done some real professional vocal training, this and that. And I need to know, I've never seen you perform live, obviously here in the States. If you were to perform in San Francisco, why should I spend my time, money, and energy to go see you? What makes your show so unique?
I suppose I know how to talk shite, as we say in Irish, in between songs, right? I have a bit of crack with the audience. I don't just sit there and, I try to put a bit of life to each song. I try to make them my own. I try not to sing a carbon copy of any cover songs. And just, as I said, just like to be Irish and have a bit of crack and have a bit of fun. Don't be too serious.
How do you connect with your audience before or after the shows? Do you do any of that? Do you go out and speak with them?
I would for sure. I often, when I'm packing up for my gigs, people come up to me for a chat and we chat away for however long they want. Again, if I've all set up and I'm just waiting for my start time, I hang around the pub, and I chat to anyone that's around. So that's sort of how I work most of the time.
I've heard from a well-known musician by the name of Keely Moss from Ireland. She now lives in London. She mentioned in our conversation that living in Ireland as a musician is brutal. It's tough to really expand your network, your fan base. True for you? What are you seeing in this world right now?
Yeah, actually, it is really hard to convince your own people in Ireland to like you, I guess. I'm going to give you one prime example, which would
Yeah.
be a singer that actually I have been in touch with over email since I'm a child with my mother, Krista Berg. He became massive in Germany and even in the States, but he was never appreciated much here in Ireland. And I don't know why. It's just there's such an amount of talented musicians in Ireland that I think one just goes under the other. And there's just so many of us that sometimes, and then I think it's who you know. If you have 20 friends that come out every night you come singing, we're like sheep. We follow one after the other. And then there's me who maybe doesn't have a huge friend circle. So I am relying on pure strangers to like what I do and follow me around. And, it's harder to get a small herd of sheep to go somewhere as if you trail in with 20 of your buddies who are just going to make a lot of noise, the rest are going to join in automatically. So I think it's all about how many friends do you have that you can bring along already from a starting point, and just you have to just really work your way in and hope for the best to a certain extent as well, and hope for a bit of luck.
Do you like playing the social media game in terms of staying connected to your fans and doing all of that work?
I wouldn't say I'm like absolutely obsessed with it. I prefer the real deal. I prefer to meet people in person. I prefer to have people who genuinely like who I am as a person and come to my gigs because of who they know I am after meeting me. I don't like relying on this often fake persona that people have on social media, and they're completely different in reality.
Yeah.
Hence, I'm not the best at keeping my social media up to date, because I'm often there like, I've no content right now because I just didn't do anything this week. And how fake of me would it be to go and especially make up something that I actually didn't do just to be able to post something?
Yeah.
It's sort of, it's a hard place to win.
It is. And I've heard from many musicians that it can be very laborious. It can be quite thrilling, of course, but just to keep up, very daunting.
Yeah, it's just, you're always trying to compete with yourself. Do better than the last time, do better than the last time. And eventually you're just like, do you know, could I really be bothered? Am I just more happy playing my gigs and seeing the people's reactions, you know, in reality, and being able to connect with them? Because you'll never connect with people the same over social media as you would in reality.
What makes a really special show for you in terms of performance?
Just when you've a good, happy crowd, I think that's what really, like, I come home absolutely buzzing and happy with myself if I've had a crowd that enjoyed the night, that were singing along, you know, that you could clearly tell they were listening to every word I sang. You know,
Yeah.
they're the best nights. And that's what really does it for me. If I have a really happy, buzzy crowd, then I'm buzzing too going home.
I'm going to read to you another passage from this book. This is called What Works for You, Believing. There's a songwriter who wrote all of her music in the same messy room in the old office building. It hasn't been touched in 30 years, and she refuses to let it be cleaned. The secret is in that room, she says. She believes it, and it works for her. Charles Dickens carried a compass to make sure he always slept facing north. He believed that alignment with the electrical currents of the earth supported his creativity. Dr. Seuss had a bookcase with a false door hiding hundreds of unusual hats. He and his editor would each pick a hat and stare at each other until inspiration came. These stories may or may not be completely true. It doesn't matter. If a ritual or superstition has positive effect on an artist's work, then it's worth pursuing. Talk to us about that.
Well, it's about the belief. It's about what you focus on. I mean, if I tell you to go out tomorrow and just look out for red cars, you're going to see red cars left, right, and center. So if I tell you to focus on being happy out on stage, and that's all you think about, you're going to be happy out on stage. If that messy office is where you feel comfortable and you believe that that's where you're going to get your inspiration, then that's where you will get your inspiration. It's all about the power that you have in yourself that you possibly don't even realize that you have.
And how much of society sometimes beckons us to not go that path because maybe that room is too messy and we need to be organized or whatever it is. And this goes back to your schooling. I could see why you didn't like schooling so much because you're put in these boxes.
Definitely. And as you just said it there, oh, you know, you can't do that in a messy room. Well, who said so? Why not? You know? Why put rules to things that don't need rules? I mean, who's it going to bother? If the end result works, then how does it matter how you got there? No more than me with my maths equations. Teacher told me to try and get to the answer that way, and I was like, well, that doesn't work for me. But I found out my own way to get to the answer. And if that's what works and you believe in it, then I don't see any reason why you shouldn't do it that way.
And are there rules specifically in show jumping that people have to adhere to?
Well, look, there's there's your simple rules. If you knock a pole, it's a fault, end of story, you know? But when it comes to training a horse, there's no rule. You know, you can spend 6 weeks at a horse, you can spend 12 weeks at a horse. Once you build that right connection with that horse and get them to trust you, that's all you need. That's your win. So how you do that is totally up to you.
I love it. Sinead O'Connor, massive iconic singer. The world lost last year, as you know.
Yes.
She inspire you in any way?
She is definitely, I would call, interesting. I definitely believe that she was a lost soul and a lost character. Parts of me actually felt very sorry for her.
Mhm.
She had sort of just, I suppose her younger self was wild and bold and free, and that was brilliant. But she just probably went somewhere that she couldn't find herself anymore, too far in finding herself. But I definitely found her younger years very inspiring, that she just wasn't afraid to be who she wanted to be and that she said what she wanted to say.
Did you like her music?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Again, anything that's a bit different, totally.
She was a different bird, wasn't she?
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
Okay, so tell the listeners what's coming down the line for you.
Well, I'm working on a song at the moment that I'm going to release hopefully very soon. I would also like to maybe do one album where I cover a few country songs that I like that other people already know as well. But that'll probably be one of my only cover albums. Other than that, I want to totally focus on original music. And just, as I said, play gigs, more gigs, try and get some bigger gigs, maybe some country festivals down the line or whatever it is. Try and get a band on the road, something like that. And just one step at a time and just keep going.
Are you going to go the Beyonce route and do some country and R&B and hip hop and all that?
No. No, I think now I'm going to stick between pop and country now. I think that's going to be sort of my corner. Maybe a bit of rock as well, but that's about it now.
What is it about country music that you really like?
I just get a really happy feeling, a good vibe out of it. I just love putting on my hat, hopping out in the tractor, listening to country music, out in the horses, wherever it is. I mean, I live that lifestyle anyway, and country music just fits in. I'm doing a truck course at the moment to get my truck license, and trucks, horses, and country music. What more do you want?
Tell us some country artists that you really admire.
Sure, look, definitely here in Ireland, you've got your Nathan Carter, Derek Ryan, you've got Robert Mizell, who actually came over from Louisiana. We've got Johnny Brady. He has a bit of a rock influence in his country. So, they're definitely the guys here. I love George Strait from your side of the pond. So it's amazing genre, and it's so real, it tells real stories about dirt and work and.
Do you like the old school outlaw country?
Yeah, I do. I do for sure. I'd be more into the old country now than the modern stuff.
We're going to punctuate this conversation with a little bit of fun. I'm going to throw out some zingers. You just throw them back at our way. First thing that comes to your mind.
All right, we'll give it a go.
All right, Sarah, here we go. Sushi.
Oh God, no.
Favorite color?
Can I say the rainbow?
Over the rainbow. The name of one of your favorite books?
Hold on, what? I'm terrible with names. Everything is fucked. A book about hope.
This sounds interesting.
It's a good book.
Taylor Swift.
She's all right.
New York City.
Oh yeah, I love it. Been there once.
U2.
Good band, definitely.
Least favorite movie?
Anything like Star Wars or that stuff, just nah.
A restaurant you would recommend?
Anything Italian. Love pasta.
Something you like to do other than modeling, show jumping, or playing music?
I love going to the gym or swimming, sport in general.
Steven Spielberg movies?
They're all great, to be honest. They're big and mighty.
Something that's overrated?
Can I say this? Beyonce's new country album.
You may. Although
Well, I just said it. So, yeah.
oh, it's magical. I love it. Something that's underrated.
Good, decent manners.
Artificial intelligence.
Oh, God, no thanks.
A place that you'd love to visit one day.
Los Angeles.
A place that you feel completely free.
In the middle of nowhere in Connemara.
Who is Sarah Wiers now?
A crazy lunatic that is just trying to make it somehow, somewhere.
I'll take that. Sarah, this has been a pleasure. Your passions for all these pursuits are very evident, and much continued success, whatever path you go down. And what I really appreciate about you is that you are intrepid. You have this air about you that you take on the world with these boxing gloves, and you're going to knock things down and not let things get in your way. Unless that's all just artificial, but I doubt it.
Well, no, we'll try anyway. Give it a lash.
I appreciate that and respect that about you. One last question. What does or do show jumping, music, and modeling, what is the common thread that puts it all together? I know there's probably more than one answer, but
I would say that it takes your heart and soul to go into it, especially music and horses, for it to work. You have to be in it on a spiritual level as much as physical. You need to be able to connect to the music, and you need to be able to connect to your horse. And I think that's the biggest part. Modeling mightn't fit into that as much. That's more about the bling and the stage, but definitely the horses and the music, you need to have that sort of a personality that you can communicate without words.
are you fearful of anything?
Not really. Not that I know of. I mean, as Cleona Hagan says in the song, we're all going to die someday, so.
So does James, the band James. I just listened to that song like an hour and a half ago. That's the opening line. All right, I'm going to end with this last passage, but this time, Sarah, you're not going to respond. You're just going to listen.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being part of Surprise Cast.
Thank you.
Openness. Our minds seek rules and limits. In attempting to navigate a large, uncertain world, we develop beliefs that give us a coherent framework, reduced options, and a false sense of certainty. Before civilization, the natural world was far more dangerous. In order for humans to survive, we had to assess situations and parse information quickly. This survival instinct persists today. With the overwhelming amount of information available to us, we are more reliant than ever on categorization, labeling, and shortcuts. You have the time and expertise to evaluate each new choice with a completely open, unbiased mind. And there is always a sense of security in shrinking our world to make it more manageable. Thank you so much. My name is William, also known as W, host of the High Art on the Edge page, host of Surprise Cast. This has been a very illuminating, unique conversation with someone that enjoys stepping out of her comfort zone, Sarah Wiers. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. And remember, great music is always out there. You just have to keep your ears open.